currently Wednesday, but it feels like it's already like, I don't know, the second Friday or something like that. It's so intense.
It is. I can only imagine. And who would say that we just began the year, a couple of weeks ago?
It's 2 weeks ago. Basically, the second week is like basically working, and it feels like it's already like a half a year or like it's, I don't know like what's happening, but it's really like you feel.
To me as well.
Yeah, it's just intense. I don't know, but it's good. Hopefully, this is good. It means good. Welcome to the CRA Corner Podcast. I am Anna Parts.
And I'm Maria Milas, and we're two former CRAs talking all things clinical operations.
Yeah. Indeed.
Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the CRA Corner Podcast. We're so excited to have you here with us, whether you're watching or whether you're just listening to us. We hope that these conversations that we're having in the CRA Corner Podcast are insightful, they're of value to you, you find them interesting. And if you want to join the conversation, you can always just ping us, send us a comment, or connect with us on LinkedIn or through our emails, or simply just reach out, and we would love to join you. Maybe perhaps at one point you even want to join in an episode on our podcast. So we are always open to having guests and having conversations that are valuable to CRAs and to the clinical operations industry. But for today, Annalisa and I were discussing a lot how the current market situation looks like, and we wanted to bring some reflections or some thoughts on what we observe, and we wanted to share that with you because so often we hear many conversations from CRAs saying, oh my God, it took me 11 months to change my position. And we're not even speaking about a first CRA role. We're speaking about CRAs who already have experience and they just want to change their position, change the company, or look for another position somewhere else for whatever the reason. Sometimes it takes so long, or sometimes it feels that there are no opportunities on the market. Sometimes they feel that there are so many, but nobody responds. Sometimes it feels that in certain locations, there's very few. But are there very few? Sometimes I wanted to just start with the elephant in the room. Let's just start with that. Let's just go straight to the point. How is it possible that the industry, and what I mean by the industry is the companies. We have CROs, we have sponsors, we have academia, we have medical device companies. Most of the industry still says we're lacking CRAs. We're hiring for CRAs. It takes us so long to cover a CRA position. While on the other side, we have so many candidates, so many CRAs, experienced, sometimes not experienced, but with relevant background, great background, experienced CRAs, senior CRAs who, whenever they apply for a position, and even yesterday I saw a comment on LinkedIn from someone, a senior CRA with 10 years plus experience, really valuable experience and relevant, who said, whenever I apply to a position, I just get an automated, almost rejection message that says, we found someone who would suit better the role, but you wouldn't know why. So how is it, where is this disconnection in the industry? How is it possible that we have at the same time two sides that just feel there's controversy? There's completely on the opposite side of the spectrum when it comes to CRA recruitment. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, indeed. Like, I feel like, especially last year, you could just see people like, I'm looking for a job. Can you please help me? Like this kind of like posts that people haven't found a job for indeed like 11 months or even 2 years. And you are just like wondering, like looking at their CV or their LinkedIn profile, you can see that they have immense experience in being CRA from different companies, for different CROs, pharma, so on, but they are not able to get job. And I think, like from my own perspective, of course, it's like not like 100% truth, but what I have heard is that the prime CRA currently is the 2-year-old experience, like basically having 2 years of experience is the prime CRA who everybody is after. And to think about that, a lot of CRAs actually like I feel that the shift has happened like within the last 2 or 3 years, where they are really looking for this like experience, but short experience CRA. And a lot of CRAs actually have indeed like 10 years of experience, and they are not able to get the job. They are not able to get a company investing in them, basically, or buying them in.
Yeah.
And it's really like sad to see, because I myself, I just started to think how long I have experience, but I actually have 2.5 years, so I would be perfect.
You're in the prime time.
I can go back. But basically, like, it's really like sad to see like these people investing their time and their like life into being a CRA, and they just have been, I don't want to say, it's a really bad word, but basically the way the industry is currently looking at them as a indeed like 10-year experience or 12 or 15 years, basically a little bit like a negative way that maybe they should be doing something else or looking into different, I don't know, positions, companies. But again, it's another thing that's difficult, like to get into the other positions as well. It's not that like just that if they want, they can go, but they actually need to do quite a lot of activities there as well. So I think, like, it's my opinion, it's just the expectations from the companies and the reality that is there is really where the difference comes from. Because once you are, like, if you think about like all of the CRAs who have been like really operative for the company, actually within 3 years they will be also in the in the same, basically not a non-operative side. So it's really like sad to see this. I think it's really like
you're very right, and you bring light on a perhaps aspect of the CRA career that is not as, it can be a little bit tricky to navigate, because here's my observations as well, and they align perfectly with you. And I would say that my observations, of course, are not 100% true, like as you said, because it's very hard to validate these reflections. However, because in CRA Connect community we have over 2,000 members and most of them are CRAs, I do get to see their response or their trajectories or their journeys as CRAs. And I absolutely agree with what you said on companies most frequently looking for CRAs with 2 years of experience. And here's the tricky part. What's behind that most often is companies, of course, want CRAs that are already trained and they can be monitoring independently, because that means you need to invest less in their training and they can monitor.
And you also don't have to actually get the approval from sponsor. Like, that's another thing that for the junior ones, it's extremely to get the yes from sponsor to be included.
Yeah, exactly. So you have already that step taken, which means your CRA is ready to go. It has 2 years. But at the same time, that CRA, because it quote unquote, only has 2 years of experience, their expectation of a salary or of perks or of quality of life in terms of how many monitoring visits per month or how much traveling, it's still not very high, because we're still training. We still consider ourselves, when we have only 2 years of experience, that it's not that much of experience. In your mind, you're trained to think, oh, I only have 2 years experience. It's not like I can ask for the top range of the salary bracket when it comes to the CRA. And that's also one of the reasons why sometimes companies are looking for this sweet spot, which puts senior experience and lead CRAs specifically with 4+ years in a very tough position. Because what do I do if I don't have the opportunity to move forward, or if I don't want to?
Yeah, and indeed, like, if we think about all of the CRAs who have been on the job for 10 years, for 12 years, like basically before, like when actually you went to the site, you performed the monitoring just like on site, and you like the activity itself was really like intense doing the monitoring, their salaries as well, like that went really, really high. And like most probably like if we think about somebody who is applying now and getting the maybe CRA2 position and the CRAs with 10 years of experience that have gone or have the upgrade of salaries, it's going to be like totally different
Absolutely.
like levels. So
Yeah.
so definitely, even if they want to change the company or they are forced to change the company, they don't want to lose the salary. They don't want to be downgraded to do the same work with less money. So it's extremely difficult to navigate currently this.
Absolutely, totally, Annalisa. So here's a reflection that I would love to bring up. What happens, or what's the sweet spot, or how can senior experienced 5 years plus CRAs, how can they navigate this challenge? I would love to discuss that. What's your perspective?
Yeah, so I know CRAs who just love the job itself. They don't want to actually like find something else, or even they don't even know what it should be. But to be honest, I do not even know what would be the answer to this, because we are seeing more and more layoffs, and the layoffs are not affecting the people who have just joined, but actually the ones who have been there, because
Tricky.
they are the most expensive like resource for the company as well in a clinical operation. Like, if we think about like CRAs themselves. And to be honest, I don't know like what to do in that because like if I would be them, of course I had already like my plan what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a clinical lead, which I worked for, but having even an openness to just have a look and maybe even just try out something as for a year or two, just to see if maybe it's something that you haven't thought about, but it's still something that you like. For example, startup or activation, or even indeed central monitoring, clinical leads, like project management. Maybe it's just something that you think you don't like, but you just discover it's something that is really, really like nice. Because I think, because I think I don't, of course, know what will happen 100% in 5-10 years with the CRA position itself. Like, will be there a reduction of the number of CRAs needed, or like what's going to be happening there? But it's just that the way that I just described, I would do that most probably. Just try out different positions within the company or within a new company, just to see like more broad way, and basically broaden your experience as well on different like clinical operation sides. But I don't know, like what do you like? Would your plan be if you would be a CRA?
Very interesting. Very interesting. You know, I think I would first make a decision if I want to still continue being a CRA, or if I'm interested at that point, for whatever the reason, to move on to a different position. And when I say move on, it's not just clinical trial lead or PM. Yeah. It can be horizontally as well, or other roles or other departments, or even other type of companies. So having made that decision, let's say I make the decision that I want to still be a CRA for a longer time because I have all of this expertise. I love the job. My salary is good. So I just want to sort of secure that I still have a career in that, and I still can grow, whether it's as a role or financially, because nobody wants to be stuck at the same salary forever, right? We're all looking for some sort of growth in there. So I think from the perspective I have of seeing many, many CRAs who have done this, many experienced CRAs move into freelancing, and they move into being contract CRAs and working for different companies and working for different sponsors, because, and this I say from the experience of myself having hired CRAs and having recruited CRAs for sponsors who were looking for freelance CRAs specifically. And the reason why we were looking for freelance specifically was because we wanted a senior CRA already in that location where the sponsor is not present locally. And we want that CRA to already from day one be able to go on site and do that monitoring visit. So there is this side of the industry that when the CRA becomes a freelancer and you are an individual contributor, then the company relies on you to perform that, but you're completely independent because you already have the experience. You can go completely independent and you can charge more because you already have that. And of course, you deal with the legal situation and with your taxes and reporting all that, which is also a nightmare, but it has some advantages and disadvantages. So I think if I were to decide to stay CRA and I'm already 5 years plus, if I have the opportunity, let's say I wouldn't just quit the contract job that I have and move straight into freelancing without having a client, because now a pharma you would need at least one client, one customer, let's say half FTE, whatever. When we speak about this, FTE would be like half time, or that covers just half of your time. A project that covers at least you paying your bills while you're looking for other projects as a freelancer that you can do too. I think that would be my plan.
That's actually really interesting because like I have no experience on the freelance. I haven't really been in contact as well with freelance CRAs, and that's really interesting. And I have always thought about how can they find the studies and how do they find the companies? Maybe it's an episode that we can do
Absolutely
in the future. But it's definitely an interesting position to go into if you indeed love the work itself so much. Like, I think it would be a really good alternative to do because
absolutely. Let's totally have a conversation, an episode on what are the differences, side and upsides and downsides of being contract versus freelance CRA. But that reminds me that the next episode we're going to publish is a great conversation with a very experienced talent acquisition professional within the industry. So if you want to learn more how TAs, so how talent acquisition or recruiters think when you are recruiting CRAs, if you want to know the behind the scenes and you want to get some tips on how do I navigate these hiring processes, you really, really, really need to watch or listen to the following episode. Now, having said that, Annalisa, here's what I also am thinking and observing in the industry, and I would love to know what's your perspective on that. You know, let's say a couple or 3 years ago when I used to go on LinkedIn and search in the search bar, in the jobs search, clinical research associate, what I would get would be thousands of CRA positions, thousands. Now, if I go there now and I compare it, and you can make a very easy comparison, you just go to Google Analytics and let's say you take the role, you make the search and it compares you with back in 2 years or 3 years, 5 years. So you can have an idea of what's going on in the market. But if I go now, probably I would still have a few thousands, but a few. Yeah. So there is a significant decrease in at least the results of the ads of clinical research associate, specifically, quote unquote, clinical research associate, when we're filtering for that. What do you think is happening? Is there less roles of CRAs on the market?
That's actually, I actually did the same search like a month ago, and I actually I didn't know the like previous years, but for me it seemed like extremely a lot openings for CRA position, but mostly they were still like smaller companies as well, of course, like the bigger ones, but like you could see a lot of smaller companies in the batch of these. And to be honest, I do not know if there is a lack, but I know also from my own experience and having and hearing about is that in a lot of times actually these things or the openings themselves are for CV collection and they don't actually look for CRAs. They just want to have, when they start to do this process, they already have database. Like a batch of, So, and even for Estonia, the same position that it was already like now 2016, 17, what I applied for, the same position opening was, I think, open for 1-2 years, something like that. They never took it down from I think it was LinkedIn maybe, but they didn't take it down, and because I was the one who was hired, I knew that they were not actually looking for another one because the positions were filled. But they were just as well, most probably, Estonia is quite small, but most probably they just kept it open because they could just have the CVs there, and they can already the system is doing the filtering, so they can already see who are qualified and who is not. So they already have, and even if this person, for example, if they applied for the position and it's like 1 year or 2 years later, and maybe this person already is employed in another company, they can still approach them, like asking, like, I know that you're CRA, we have this offer opening, and would you be interested? Can we have a talk?
Yeah.
So it's already like, it doesn't matter if the person is already working or not.
Interesting, but that would totally make sense because like any company and any recruiter would want a good database to which to go to whenever you have a position open. So here's one of my observations in the last couple of years. I need to follow very closely what's happening with the CRA role, right? And I continuously do these checks, whether on LinkedIn or other, and there are other platforms as well, because depending on where you're located, maybe you're looking on Indeed, maybe you're looking on Glassdoor, maybe you're looking wherever you're looking. There's other platforms as well. But one of my observations is that before, the CRA role was very strictly called clinical research associate. So if we filter and we look for that role specifically as a clinical research associate, you might get less opportunities because the role has slightly shifted or fragmented specifically.
Yeah.
I see how what before a CRA used to do everything from A to Z, from submissions to regulatory authorities to the closeout report, even sometimes. Now we have activation CRA or activation monitor or activation specialist or study startup monitor or closeout a CRA. And we play with these roles and with this terminology. And what we are actually doing is specializing a little bit, taking the CRA role and looking for professionals and specializing in certain segments. And when we put those roles up, if we only search for filtering for specifically clinical research associates, it might not show up. Or if we don't look wide and broadly enough, we might just discard options that are great options and might be even something that you want to do. But because one, you didn't know, or two, you didn't look with eyes wide open enough, you just skipped through those roles.
Yeah.
That's something I'm seeing.
Why do you think that happened? Because we have been CRAs who have been doing the same thing from start until the end. Like, why do we need this small section CRAs? Like, why no longer?
I think. Is it? Well, yeah. What do you think it is?
I was just thinking, just randomly right now. Is it just because you are able to ask money for two persons instead of one? I don't know, but I just jump into it. But it's basically
certainly could be my assumption. And again, when these are just reflections on what we see in the market, right? So they're sort of a little bit assumptions, and they're just tested through the time and through what actually we see then in the industry. I think it's mostly because of scalability, trying to scale a company when you begin and maybe you start with 3 studies, with 3 clinical trials. And then would you just have a CRA or 3 CRAs who can do it all? But then as you grow, as you scale up and you have thousands and thousands and sometimes thousands of clinical trials or studies, you might not have such CRAs with the experience enough who can come into the company and already do it all. But it's perhaps much easier to have a CRA who perhaps has only 1 year, 1.5 years experience, or maybe even less. And it's easier, faster to just learn that segment of how to activate sites, how to do site initiation visits, or just that site of closeout visit. Or imagine, I'm thinking of a CRA who perhaps joined a clinical study when they were close to closeout. But closeout takes a bit of time. You don't close out all your sites within 2 months. Maybe it takes you 9 months, 11 months to close all your sites. So if this CRA has only 1.5 years experience and they already moved to the next company, this next company might already think this is a great person, great experience, lovely skills, great potential as well. But if she or he only has 1.5 years experience, from that 1.5 years, 4 months, let's say 6 months were training in the previous company, they actually only have 9 months experience. And what were they doing exactly? They speak a lot about study closeout. Okay, then this person is great at study closeout. We know that can easily take ownership of study closeout. So that potentially is one of the reasons why we kind of scale and we kind of need these professionals. But at the same time, we need CRAs to be independent fast so that we can, that we're efficient also, as a company.
Yeah. And like, maybe I was just a little bit blinded at the time when I was a CRA, but now you could see more and more like vendors and also even sites actually. Now I think it was maybe from somebody from like who is or LinkedIn as well and really from site perspective that now the sites are like becoming more and more even CROs, like they're building their own like CROs, and meaning that they are employing CRAs. Do you think like this also could be the like reason behind that you could, for example, site could indeed take for CRA for activation and help them with the activation like activities or I don't know, like what is your perspective on the vendor or others than CROs employing CRA?
Yeah. Like, great point. It's a great observation that you've made there, because totally one thing CRAs don't consider is we only think about our careers when it comes to CRO and sponsor. But we have all the other vendors, from IWRS vendors to EDC vendors to ETMF. And Annalisa, you know the best, right? Being even a vendor with Menken Trials and providing and building those systems. But there's so many vendors that we need in clinical trials so that we conduct the trial. And the CRA role is a very key one in clinical operations because it's a 360 kind of role, because you do get exposure to clinical operations, to the conduct of the study. You get exposure to the site, you get exposure to documentation, you get exposure to regulation, you get exposure to mostly everything. So you have this relevant experience and perspective. So who better to help build a tool that then will be used by all the clinical professionals, including CRAs, or who better to manage a project at a vendor who is managing a clinical study within their software system, with their software system, than a CRA who already has been using that system on a daily basis for, let's say, 3-4 years. So totally, vendors is a great opportunity for CRAs.
Yeah, and even here, I would really like to put a note for vendors themselves is to start including more CRAs. You do not know what you're missing out. Like, these people are the gold, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Such valuable experience and such valuable perspectives and information that CRAs can bring to the table. And also, don't forget that CRAs have certain soft skills that most don't have because you haven't forced to build them, like dealing with difficult sites, dealing with difficult investigators, dealing with stress. It's high intensity job. So those soft skills that an experienced CRA has developed are key for mostly any role that you might be looking for someone with experience and knowledge of clinical operations.
Yeah, indeed. So, Maria, I think it was really interesting to speak with you on this topic. I think it's really important to just understand the ecosystem itself.
Great topic.
But, yeah, indeed. But for the next week, we are inviting a really awesome HR person or a talent acquisition person here as well to speak with us. And we are going to start with our own experience on the job interview. So definitely I have some some things to share, but definitely really excited about that. Really.
Me too. And not often I've shared about how my interviewing process was, and I cannot say that it was only one. I actually changed 3 companies while I was a CRA. So I have several hiring processes that I'm really looking forward to bring them to a conversation with you. And I think I told nobody how the experience was through all of these 3. situations. Really looking forward to the next episode. And to everyone who's been listening and watching, thank you. Thank you for coming along, and post any question that you may have in the comment section. Give us a like, follow us so that you're notified about the next episode. And as Annalisa said, we're really looking forward to see you in the next episode. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.